Hello and welcome to our last session of the side-by-side training. We just want to thank you guys for sticking it out with us. It's been a fun journey. I have to confess, David, these last chapters I really wrestled with, and I think part of the wrestle for me is we need to talk to the people we love about the sin that's in their life. And I am good with suffering. If someone's hurting, I want to jump in and I want to help them. But talking about sin is not easy for me, and I wonder if it's because I don't want someone to talk about my sin. I wonder, I was wondering, I've never had such a hard time as I did with these chapters.
I think, being in different groups and a part of the Christian community for so many years, I think as we come to these chapters, these are probably the hardest chapters to really practice, be willing to practice, yet probably the most important ones to practice and be ready to practice. That there's something that you could hear from this chapter and these chapters about needing to confront and deal with sin. It'd be what James talks about. There's a beautiful thing where he says, anyone who brings back a sinner from wandering will save his soul from death. When it comes to sin, we literally are battling with life and death. And that's the thing that the enemy has convinced us of in the church. He lies to us because he knows if there's anything we can avoid talking about, he wants us to avoid talking about sin, because he knows as long as he can keep us talking about it, keep us being real from it, then it keeps the power of sin on top of us. If we're going to be a Christian community that's run after God, we got to be helping each other run away from sin.
So one of the lies that I believe is it's none of my business. It's going to get messy, and I don't like conflict. I mean, there are definitely reasons why we don't want to do it. So I was really convicted that to not be willing to go there with my brothers and sisters is sinning against them. That was a huge challenge in this chapter. And we need to really believe that to have buy-in, to want to be able to do what this book is asking us to do, what Scripture's asking us to do.
And if really honest, as we're watching this, any group that you lead, this is what I think the challenge would be. Dietrich Bonhoeffer said it well, as he was talking about this, and he was talking about that we put on this pious idea of Christianity, that somehow sin cannot exist, and yet we all declare that we need to be saved from sin, but we don't want to admit we have sin. And there's this contradiction. And this is what I would challenge you with as leaders, is the greatest way you can help your group, to help your community, help those you're walking the Christian life with, not ignore sin, is by being the ones that are willing to talk about it first in yourself. That's such an important thing. A lot of times when I'm meeting with people, even outside of my group, but just for any other things, if I know there's something there, one of the first things I do is I get real about my own struggles. It's because I know that creates a safe place where people won't feel attacked and condemned, but more, we're in this together.
And I think once you do that, it does break down those walls. And the truth is, we really do want to be known and loved for who we are, warts and all. And so by not going here, we're hiding in so many ways. And so I know that next chapter then, just to help our fellow sinners, they just talk about how we're going to see sin. So there's going to be 3 ways that they challenge us. The one way is just knowing that they have temptations. They're seeing temptations, or you see their temptations, whether it's someone who spends a lot of time at home alone or out alone. That second way, though, is when you actually see the sin and need to go. That's the one that's hard for me, if I'm honest with you. If someone comes to you and says, hey, I'm really struggling with anger towards my children, or I'm looking at things that I shouldn't be looking at, the Spirit's already working, and you can deal with that. But when you see sin and have to go and confront someone, that's tough.
So as you're looking at chapter 16, there's a lot of content there. And so we're not going to unpack all of that, but I want to share this with you, though, before we kind of look at these 3 things really quick. I want to encourage you, go back to these chapters. Really think of side by side, especially these chapters, as a handbook. When something's starting to show up in your group and you're not sure to walk this, go back to side by side, look at it, feel the challenge, but also know this is what the leaders here at the church are here for. Tammy and I are here to help you guys walk this. If you're wondering, I wonder if there's a sin thing that we need to start talking about, I wonder if I need to confront this, come chat with us. We'd love to help you figure that out. But there's my biggest, again, encouragement to you is Tammy mentioned some of these things from chapter 16 at the beginning. When someone faces temptations, getting real about temptations is the first thing you should be doing in group. And what I mean by that is prayer request time. This is when, in our discussion, we have a lot of questions that come up and say, where are you really struggling with this? Be the leader that acknowledges your own struggle with that sin. Be the leader that's willing to say, man, I can see myself in that. That's a good thing. Confessing our struggles is humility. God blesses that. He opposes the proud. He gives grace to the humble. This is a good thing that God's called us to do. But that next part, like you said, when we actually see the sin in someone but maybe haven't been invited to talk about it, that always is going to be the messiest. Be in prayer. Come talk to us. Help us walk that with you. And then when someone discloses and confesses sin, the chapter does a great job walking through that. Go back to the chapter, seek the counsel. I think they had great advice for how to walk
Absolutely. We get to the end, as we're doing this, I loved, because I have children, love reading books to my grandchildren. You've got those stories they read over and over and over again. We have a wonderful story in our salvation. And so I think it's Paul Tripp that talks about we need to preach the gospel to ourselves every day. And so we see ourselves as that person. We remember ourselves as that person that needed to be saved. We see God walking with us as we're being sanctified. And then we think of our future. And so we have that story that we keep coming back to that grounds us.
And that helps us walk this together. And so don't keep the sin is not the main thing. Jesus is the main thing. His power in our lives is the main thing. His redemption call, his grace and mercy. That's the main thing. And then we keep walking that together.
Thank you so much for being committed to doing this with us. We appreciate you guys.